We're frauds.
It's France Olympics. He decides, I'll break my mates and go make a sandwich.
Like you're moving like you're fucking dancer. You look at this cha-cha-cha. Bang! And welcome back to the Uneducated Nuffies. My name is Ethan Stone and I'm here with my co-host today, Jonty Perry. Jonty, how are you going today?
Oh, my head hurts after that one. It's been a weird weekend, man. I don't like it.
You don't like it?
No.
Why?
Well, one, St Kilda didn't beat you by 156 points. That hurt my head the most. And B, ever since Sunday night, so just yesterday night, it's been an absolute travesty of just not there's. I understand the glee, but oh my god, it's been painful.
I'm still trying to figure out what emotions to feel after yesterday. I'm still confused.
You should feel shame.
No, I should not feel ashamed. I'm
Shame.
proud. I'm not proud of my club, but I'm happy to support a club that are playing finals.
You should still feel shame. You didn't win to make it in.
We won enough games.
Yeah, everyone won enough games. It's a percentage at the end of the day, isn't it?
Who's in the eight? Who's in the eight?
Absolutely, the Crows were robbed. Right in front of me.
We're going to engage with our mind.
Well, do you think they didn't come to play? Do you think they sat in their cars waiting for the game to start and go out there?
That's how I felt on Saturday. That was awful.
It was a very just boring and sleepy games.
Like, what? North getting thumped. What a surprise. West Coast getting thumped. What a surprise. Richmond showing some promise because they always do by losing to 30 to Gold Coast. What a surprise.
Essendon disappointed its fans once again. What a surprise.
And then Sydney cruise past Adelaide. What a surprise.
I don't reckon anyone would have, unless you were a fan of the team, no one would have sat down for a whole game and watched any of those games.
No.
You could turn on for 10 minutes and go, oh, I'm bored.
Yeah, pretty much. I think I watched maybe a half of football that whole day without being bored. And that was in the Brisbane Essendon game.
Yeah, I reckon I watched that before. That was just to fill time before the United game. But there was one good thing to come out of Saturday, and that it was Joe Danaher. Because he's now got a very prestigious award under his belt now.
He does. It's very prestigious, you know. People want it. People want
It's the best award you can get in the game of AFL anymore.
Right. Well, yeah. It's so you have to be so good at football to be able to do this.
If you aren't aware, Joe Danaher became only the second player ever in AFL VFL history to kick one behind in every game of the season. That is goddamn impressive. You have to be that good to be able to get the ball, and then that shit to be able to not kick a goal.
The funnier thing is, though.
No, I know where this is going.
The funnier thing is that he still averaged less behinds than Charlie Curnow. Like, how is that the case?
No, we're not going into this.
How is that the case?
No further questions. I'm not having this.
How do you have someone get the point in every single game and you still have less points over the season?
Leave Sir Charles alone. He never did anything to hurt you. But then you get to Sunday, and my God, what a Sunday it was. To go from a sleepy Saturday to a springing Sunday. We had some cracking games on the board here.
We had some great ones. Anyway, so the Doggies cemented their status on the first game of the day. Doggies beat Giants in Ballarat. It was terrible conditions. That was the wind was awful.
That was some impressive wind. I think I wasn't able to watch this. I listened to the radio and I heard it was a 6-goal breeze to one end of the ground. It must have been atrocious.
No, so I was watching it at work, so this is even funnier. I was watching one of the Doggies players run in the first quarter, and his shot went from 40 metres out, fell at the top of the goal square. And he's like, how does a kick go like that?
Well, you look, from what I was hearing in the warm-up, some of the Doggies players were kicking from almost the centre square bounce and almost reaching the goal.
Well, to be fair, it is Ballarat, so you got to take off. They don't know how to do math in Ballarat. So 50 metres is maybe 35 in Ballarat.
I think you might be causing a fight with the wrong people because the Ballarat and Bendigo people don't get on. You better not be causing fights with the wrong people.
I'm a Bendigo person, mate. So
I feel like they could be coming after you.
I don't give a fuck. But they're saying realistically it's a 75-meter kick if you normally will be 50 meters. So, yeah, it was pretty bad.
It was a good game. It was almost a finals preview of what we're going to expect. And the Doggies obviously won the game. They showed up and played really good 4 quarters of football, in my opinion. Especially in that first quarter, only holding the Giants to a 19-point quarter with them having the advantage in the win. They played really good football, moved it nicely, and then really shown that they're a team not to be messed with come finals time.
Well, my big question going into finals this year is who stops the Doggies moving the ball when there's no 6-goal wins going on? Like at this current point in time, their ability to move the ball with Ed Richards, Bailey Dale, outside of your main Bond, Trelaw, Liver, it's gonna be too hard to get past these people.
Their midfield is very much a stacked midfield. When you have the names that they have in the Bontempelli, the Trelaws, the Libbers, even the Richards, it's just really hard to come up. And their forward line, I think the last 5 to 6 weeks has really actually lifted. I think Jamara Ugle-Hagan has looked some of the best football he's played in his career at the moment. And it's clicking at the right time, but they're probably playing the wrong team, not the wrong team, but the team you wouldn't want to be coming up against in finals though. So you look at next week, obviously the fixtures come out, you got the Bulldogs and Hawthorn. Both those teams deserve to go into the next round to the semi-finals, but one of them's going to fall short.
Yeah, and that's something we'll have to discuss in our preview next week. It's going to be a big week for AFL for that. But they're both teams that move the ball so well. Like, Hawthorn are the best ball movers in the comp right now, and Doggies are not far behind. They're both teams that are playing extremely well football. And realistically, at this point, they're both teams who... Doggies are no good when they're in the top 4, but when they're in the top, bottom half of the top 8, they generally a threat for the grand final.
Well, you look, they did it in 2016. They went from 7th, I believe, and went all the way. They're in 7th again. Who knows what they can do? But I think you look at it as well. The Giants had a lot to take out of Sunday's game. Obviously, 3 laid outs doesn't help. Obviously, trying to rest players knowing that they're safe for a top 4 position. But it's sort of... They've still got a lot of promise. And I think it will be an interesting matchup against Sydney because I think they always match up well. And it will be a very interesting game. And their midfield and forward, especially Jesse Hogan, has become someone we didn't think was going to turn to what he is. He's at his 3rd club, and he just won a Coleman. It's amazing to see someone grow and find form this late in his career. Yeah,
and once again, that's something we'll have to cover next week in the preview. But this week was a learning experience because they had 3 players like Lockie Keith will not be playing next week unless there's something drastic going on. Players like that will not be playing. Nick Haynes won't be playing next week. So there's stuff like that. Giants, the only issue was that they probably could have nearly secured. It was obviously wouldn't be in their hands, but could have tried to go for the top 2 spot. I think that is something that Giants probably wanted to have because going in now to play Sydney, if they lose, they're playing probably either Hawthorn or they're playing Brisbane most likely. Well, we're saying Hawthorn, Doggies or Brisbane.
I think they'll still be happy, obviously, with the second chance. Obviously, top 2 gives you that home run all the way to the grand final, but it's a great advantage for those interstate teams. But I think they're still going to be able to. It's not like they're playing away first week. They're still in Sydney. They might just be down the road at the SCG. If they win that, they get another home final. If they lose that, they get a home final and then have to travel away. But they're going to be good enough. But that was a really good bit. I think that's the round of footy, if I remember. That was all that happened.
No, mate. You're being too
we're done?
happy.
Great.
You're being too happy. You're being too happy. Let's bring you back down to earth before you then go, oh my God, we made finals though because Port won. Let's start off with the actual result that happened for you on the weekend.
What? I don't know what happened. Nothing happened.
Jack Higgins much?
Who's that? Irrelevant.
I don't think he's quite relevant, mate.
I think he's pretty irrelevant.
I think he kicked the game.
He's at a shit club.
Well, you lost to him, so that doesn't really help your case there.
Yeah, we played our VFL squad.
It doesn't matter. You still lost to him. They'll make that argument.
I just don't want to talk about this.
Best game of the round, by the way. This game was still a defensive slugfest. They were terrible goal scoring, but best game of the round because it was actually intense. Both teams came out to fucking fight.
Well, first of all, it doesn't help when both teams don't have a forward line.
Oh no, Saints have theirs.
Not really.
They have
They
theirs.
didn't
They
have
didn't have
King.
King.
Membry looked okay, but both teams didn't really have a forward line, and their defenses were very strong.
No, that's what I'm saying. In spite of their forward lines, it was a great game. Both teams came out just absolutely firing, absolutely trying to beat the shit out of each other, and it nearly went your way right at the end.
Well, obviously, Kemp missing that opportunity didn't help, kicking that behind with about 2.5 minutes to go. And then Saints go coast to coast, and Filippo has a chance to kick the winning goal. He kicks it behind, obviously. And then to Blur, and then Higgins kicks it in the air and somehow goes in the goal. I still think that's corrupt. I think there's something behind that. I'm still trying to figure out what it is.
Your club cannot talk about corruption. I'm sorry, mate.
But I think obviously it was. I'm actually like happy out of the game somewhat.
No, you weren't.
Because let me finish speaking, Jonty. I'm the fan here.
Yeah, I know. Because you were so depressed yesterday.
I think Carlton's intensity and pressure has looked a lot better the last 2 weeks than it did about 4 or 5 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. Obviously, with our star players out, hurts, and it's been very noticeable. Looking at the likes of Ashton Moyer, who's going to be a gun player in the next couple of years. Cooper Lord looked really good in the midfield. Jackson Binns finally got his chance. That new blood actually made us look better than we did 5 weeks ago when we had some of these star players in the team and they actually wanted to play for the badge.
But the thing is, you're going to drop them all this week.
I get that they're going to, but I really think they shouldn't.
And I don't want to hear you're really happy about it, because you were not. You were not. Yesterday, you were inconsolable for at least 3 hours. I reckon you probably spent the whole time at the TV in the Port Freo game. Like that.
The best way is I can tell you where I was. We just pulled into the car when I was listening to the last minute, and I'm sitting in the car, and my sister's not going to like me saying this. She's out the car spewing her guts. She had a bit of a silly Sunday after the grand final on Saturday. But when I was sitting there, I'm like, oh no, this is not good. And I hear Jack Higgins kicked it. It's going. I'm listening to AFL Nation. It was Andy Marr was commentating, and when the goal went in, the radio just went silent. I went silent. I almost punched a window. I literally was so close to losing my shit. That was one of the most, not frustrating, because we played good footy, but it's something that seems to always happen to us. I'm fucking sick of it.
It was shared to 2022.
Oh, when he kicked it, I was getting flashbacks. I'm thinking, oh no, we're not doing this again, are we? We can't not miss out a final. We can't do another year where we're in finals all year and then miss out. But thankfully, someone, Ken Hinkley, I'll buy you whatever you want, did the right thing and got Carlton into finals.
Not the right thing.
He did the right thing.
Anyway, let's move on for a second, because we're talking about Carlton a bit too much. St Kilda actually showing some promise at the end of this year. They're 6 of the last 7 games they've won. They actually look like a good team now. Like, what the fuck's going on?
I think they've finally, because you look at Ross Lyon, he's always been a defensive-minded coach. He loves to try and set up well. But they look so much better when they look to be on the offensive and play fast attacking footy. The thing that I noticed the most when St Kilda had the ball is when they moved it really fast, we couldn't stop it. So we had to try and play a bit more slower footy on defense, and then when we're moving around slower, so they couldn't get advantage. But you watch them off from their half back to their half forward. They move it so quickly and get down the ground so fast, you don't have time to react. And it's really exciting that St Kilda look like this. I still think their list has a long way to go. I still think they're missing at least another key forward to help Max King. You look, their defense is pretty good. They need another inside midfielder, I reckon.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of pieces to still pick up. And obviously they're going to tackle hard at the trade period here. But they've got enough pieces as their core that they can just grow on that. And then they'll be able to extend and go from there.
No, it's a list that needs a lot of work still. Well, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying at this point, they're putting it together with the list they have right now. What happens when they have an actual list that looks like they can contend? Because this team, if you're looking, they beat Geelong, they beat you, which people might say, oh, but it's still 2 good results in a row. They beat Richmond the week before, but by 50, so it's not too bad. And then they've won other 3 games, like the last 6. You're seeing a growth of a team, which at the start of the year, no one had much hope for at all.
Well, you look, they've done almost a reverse to what Essendon did. They had a really shit start to the season and turned it around. But one of the things I noticed when I was listening and watching the game, did you see that St Kilda's list manager was sitting next to Tom DeConey and Adam Chera?
Yeah, no. So this was a big thing they were talking about in the commentary the whole way. It's so they had everyone in there, and they're just like chatting. They go, oh, hey Tom, oh yeah, and then Tom kind of just sits there and he goes,
yeah, and then Carlton finally realised they got to get him out of that position because it's like whoever is the ticketer for Carlton's players needs to get the sack. That's like you're putting your best, most probably promising player next to opposition's scout.
The only thing going for that in that situation is probably not the players that they think St Kilda will look for anyway, because the Coning won't go to St Kilda if he wants to play full ruck.
No, but it's something like you don't want to see it because it scares you.
Yeah.
And I did not like it, but we'll get onto that game. We'll move on to, in my opinion, the best game of the round. Port Adelaide did enough. They got over the top of Fremantle and they've locked up second place in the ladder.
That on the outside of the rest of the context, Port season's been amazing. To go from wanting Ken Hingley sacked midway through the year to being second place, probably the most convincing team in the comp right now. They are seriously a threat for this grand final.
I think they are. If they can be able to put it together and get past that prelim hurdle that Ken Hingley struggled, they are a genuine threat. I think their midfield of Horn Francis, Butters and Rosie is probably, if not one of the best midfields in the comp. Their backline in the game stood up so much. I've never seen Brendan Zerk-Thatcher play such a good game.
Well, he's gone from being the worst one-on-one defender in the comp to being at least good enough to hold down players. Like that's a big bonus for him. And
Georgiades looks like one of the best forwards in the comp. Again, he's really come back from that injury looking good. They did it without the likes of Dixon. Obviously, they won't have Houston for a while. They won't have him for the granny if they get there. But they really look like a genuine team. And for the likes of, you look at Fremantle, I thought they actually played pretty well. Their ball movement from their back line towards their forward 50 was really good. However, their inserts into the forward 50, it really lacked. And you can notice that Josh Tracy wasn't there. And I think you insert Josh Tracy there, I think they would have won that game. Yeah. But it does hurt not having that massive key target, key forward. You look at it happened with Carlton as well. I know Charlie or Harry, it hurt trying to get in there. But Freo's had that problem probably for the last 2 to 3 years. They don't have that key forward that's able to consistently play great football. Matt Taberner was their last main key forward. That probably is the one, or Rory Lobb beforehand. Rory Lobb moved away as soon as he had his best year. Taberner isn't in their team anymore. Like that's the consistency in that forward line has not been it's been the consistent issue for Freo. Their movement is great and all. Jai Amos is young. He's going to take some time to develop. Tracy's finally developing into the player they thought they might have. Freo, at this point in time, I would take not playing finals this year because you have the better draft assets to trade. You're going to be going big, and that's something I'll discuss later on in the pod. This game, though, they should have done a lot better. Well, you look, they're in prime position. Probably the second best team going into the off-season, the way they're set up. Obviously, they've got pick 9 and pick 10 now because they got pick 10 from Collingwood for the Lockie Schultz trade. That's great assets to go for the likes of a Bolton or someone like that that they can go after. And they've got to take advantage of that like you're going to talk about later. But they're really in a good position. Obviously, you want to play finals. No one wants to miss out on the finals. You play every season to get there. But it's a good learning curve for them to go into next season. Like, here's where we screwed up. Here's our new list. This looks better. You work on from there. But there was one moment I noticed, at least for Port fans, they got a very big scare when Alira Lee went down in the second quarter grabbing his Achilles. That was very worrying times. That would be a bigger loss than any of the midfielders at all. Because right now, midfield, Horn Francis isn't in playing in the midfield right now. He's playing half forward because
Ollie Wines is able to play in there. They've got Willem Drew, who will tag down and lock down at any midfielder they want. Like, they've got so many players in there. Alia is by far the linchpin of the defense. Like, he's the one player you want in there. And if he went down completely, Port wouldn't win.
I think he's the most impactful player that any club in finals has at the moment. I think the work he does and the way he sets up their backline just really is so strong and impactful that, say he goes down, who fills in that role? They don't have someone who can fill in the void that he has.
Yeah, well, Radigalia was supposed to be that helper. He hasn't turned out that way. He's turned out to be a utility between forward line and defence. So Thatcher's not going to be able to step up and play that. He's much deeper. He's much more of a player that thrives on playing that deeper one-on-one now. So I don't know what Port would have done. It would be pretty bad.
But we're never going to tear us apart. And thank you, Port Adelaide. Thank you, Port Adelaide fans. Thank you, Ken Hinkley. And if you didn't see, one little thing I want to add on, Ollie Wines was asked about at the end of games why that a lot of Carlton fans would be thankful. And he goes, I used to support Carlton as a kid. I had a little soft spot for them. So they wanted to win. So thank you, Ollie Wines. And thank you, Port Adelaide, for everything you've done.
Modal medal time. And today it's renamed. The winner gets the medal for the next year.
It's a big, prestigious honour to get. And only one person can win it.
Only one.
One. Not two, one.
Let's start off with the first game, and we'll get through, and we'll figure out who's crowned. So we'll start off with the Friday night game. We didn't touch on this in AFL because it was terrible. Let's be honest. I can't even support my team on that one. That was terrible. Anyway, so 1 vote goes to Josh Dacos, 2 votes to Pat Lipinski. Hooray! And
White Fries boy.
At number 3 votes, Nick Dacos.
Now we go to the snooze fest in Launceston. We gave 1 vote to James Sicily, 2 votes to Jai Newcomb, and 3 votes to Massimo D'Ambrosio.
Now, Geelong, their send-off for Tom Hawkins and Zach Tui. You don't know what will happen next. But 1 vote goes to Patrick Dangerfield, 2 votes Reece Stanley, and 3 votes Jeremy Cameron.
The next game, we've got the Dustin Martin Cup. We gave Jared Witts 1 vote, Tim Taranto 2 votes, and 3 votes Samuel Flanders.
Brisbane versus Essendon. Brisbane continuing to win. 1 vote goes to Will Ashcroft, 2 votes Carl Langford, big round for him, and 3 votes Lockie Neal.
Being at a Sydney versus Crom, we gave 1 vote to Riley Thilthorpe, 2 votes to Matt Roberts, and 3 votes to Nick Blakey.
Now to Ballarat. And we've got 1 vote Bailey Dale, 2 votes Lockie Whitfield, and 3 votes Ed Richards.
Next game is a game I can't remember happening. 1 vote George Hewitt, 2 votes Sam Walsh, and 3 votes Nick Newman.
And then the final game of the round, Freo versus Port. 1 vote Jordan Sweet, 2 votes Ollie Wines, and 3 votes Andrew Brayshaw.
So now that leaves the finals for the Modal medal is now locked in, complete. The votes have been tallied. And we have a winner or winners as of such.
But there's only 1.
But now there's 2.
Oh, fuck. Oh, no.
We have now tallied the votes and finishing on first place with a total of 30 votes, Patrick Cripps and Nicholas Dacos.
Wow.
What a surprise.
What a crazy turn of events.
Who would have thought the 2 blokes sitting here they support, their players won the medal?
No, they had good years.
They're probably still the 2 favourites to win the Brownlow as well.
Yeah, so use this as your Brownlow voting technique.
Write a spreadsheet if you want.
Yeah, we'll bring out the full top 10 later on, but Cripps and Dacos tie, which means we have to name this medal something. So if anyone has any suggestions, we'll take any suggestion. I had, what was it? It was like dips.
But if you have any ideas on what we should name the medal, please let us know. We're thinking going with the Cripps Dacos medal, but if you got anything more original, would love to hear from you guys.
And it can be as creative as possible, as long as we can use it without being like ripped apart.
Please no defamatory words or anything rude. We have a lot of elderly community watching this show, so we need to keep it PG.
Don't call your mum elderly.
No, they're not calling my mother elderly.
Well, who are you calling elderly?
Pat.
Ah,
He's a grandpa.
That's right.
You get to grumpy after 9 o'clock. First off, would like to also say there has been a highway robbery that has occurred. As of about 2 hours ago, it was released the All-Australian Top 40, the list for the All-Australian for Thursday night. And Rowan Marshall has phenomenally missed out.
Now, Sam Flanders also missed out, which is not a high robbery. He had a great year. But these two players didn't make it. But a funny selection did make it. So you'll hear about that in a second. But yeah, Rowan Marshall single-handedly carried St Kilda throughout the season. The only other player that had really any other impact was Jack Sinclair. But Rowan Marshall, he finished at top 10 in our voting. That's how good of a season he had.
Had a really good year. And it was shocking to see him going in. Somehow, Darcy Cameron got selected.
Nah, he makes perfect sense.
No.
Makes perfect sense.
Someone needs to figure it out. Because if Darcy Cameron can make it, Mark Pitney can make it.
No.
Yes.
No, Darcy Cameron had a great year. You don't
So did Mark Pitney.
No, he didn't.
Have you seen his champion data stats?
He had one good game.
Yeah, like 5 good games in champion data.
But champion data stats are always the worst stats in the world.
No, that's not fair.
How?
I think you're just cheating against him.
No.
Oh, well.
Oh well. We don't agree on this, but we are going to talk about all Australian lists. I will start with my team. So starting off in the back line, this is my original team, by the way. I'll tell who I've stepped out. So McGovern, Wiedering, and I had Connor Iden. Now he didn't make the list, so I brought in James Sicily to replace him. Then at halfback, I've got Sheasel, Harris Andrews, and Jack Sinclair. Then in the centre, I've got D'Ambrosio, Cripps, and then I had Josh Kelly. Now, he only played 15 games, didn't make the list, so Errol Gordon replaces him. Then I have Dylan Moore, Charlie Curnow, and Brent Daniels. And then I have Cameron, Hogan, Heaney. And then on the followers, Cherry, Nick Dacos, and Bontempelli. On the interchange, I have, because I have to change a lot of this stuff, Jordan Clark, for Tom Stewart. Then I have Cam Rayner. I had Rowan Marshalls. I've now got Darcy Cameron. Funny pick. And Adam Treloar. Now, do I say your list? Or?
I was going to say, who's your coach?
Coach, sorry. I had Ken Hinkley because of the story this season.
And your captains and vice captains?
Captain, I had Paddy Cripps. I was fair in that situation. As vice captain, I'm going Dylan Moore. I think, he's a vice captain. It's actually lining up with how he plays in real life.
And now for my All-Australian team. So I've had 1 or 2 changes due to the changes in the All-Australian team, but it's pretty similar, pretty standard for what I had beforehand. From the back line, I have Harris Andrew, Jeremy McGovern, and Luke Ryan. On the halfback, I've got Harry Sheasel, Jacob Wiedering, and Nick Blakey. Through the centre, I have Errol Goulden, Paddy Cripps, and Zach Merritt. In the half forward, I've got Dylan Moore, Charlie Curnow, and Isaac Heaney. In the full forward lineup, I've got Jake Waterman, Jesse Hogan, and Brett Daniels. My followers are Tristan Cherry, Nick Dacos, and Lockie Neal. And on my interchange, I have Jack Sinclair, Marcus Bontempelli, Tyson Stengel, and Chad Warner. So I originally did have Rowan Marshall on my team. I had to take him out. So I brought in Tyson Stengel, thought I'd bring another small forward because I don't think we need a backup ruck if Marshall's not available. As well as I was tipping and turning between Harris Andrews and Tom Stewart from Geelong. They were the only ones I was sort of weighing up.
Fair enough. I still think Tom Stewart had a strong enough season. I probably would take out Ryan from your squad for Tom Stewart, but he didn't make it into All-Australian selection anyway. So
I think Luke Ryan had a really good year and he really was strong. As well, I also had Paddy Cripps as my captain as well. Thought he was probably the best leader the comp had all year. And had Harry Sheasel as my vice-captain. I think his leadership is growing and he'll be the captain of the club in the next 2 years, in my opinion. And my coach is Sam Mitchell. I think the way he's led Hawthorn to where they are with teams thinking they would finish bottom 4 almost to playing finals is a phenomenal achievement. And I think he's been the coach of the year, in my opinion.
No, fair enough. I didn't have Hawks at the start of the year and by bottom 4. So I think the surprise is to some people, not to everyone.
I think they were down. They were not where they were.
They're not where they are now, but I don't think they're as surprising as they were to everyone. Like I thought they were going to be perennial finals, not actually making finals. But Sam Mitchell definitely deserving of a All-Australian coaching if he does get that.
I was interested by your wingers. Do you want to elaborate why you had no Errol Goulden there on the wing?
Well, I didn't originally, and the reason why is because Josh Kelly's impact this year has been much more felt by Giants than Errol Goulden's has been at Sydney. Sydney's midfield has been very strong, and that's been something that has been shared across all their players. Goulden's had his moments, but he hasn't stepped up as much as he did last year. Last year, he was elite. Let's not get that wrong. This year, he's stepped back. And that's why I didn't have him in the squad originally. Kelly, his start to the season was amazing. He was probably one of the best players in the comp over the first 5 or so weeks. He had some injuries, which probably kept him out for too long in the season and wouldn't get him part of voting. But I would have him over the top. And D'Ambrosio has been a absolute treat for Hawthorn, just getting for a very low compensation, not nothing. So, it's something Goulden could easily make this squad, and he made my squad in the end because he obviously had to replace Kelly. But I'd have those two over him.
Yeah, Ken. I'm interested to see Sam Flanders there as well. I think obviously he missed out in the end, and you obviously changed it. But I thought he obviously had a very good year, but I thought there was better options in that midfield half-back.
There probably was, but I thought the impact he had in those games where they really needed it, he was the player that stood out. Noah Anderson had a great year as well, don't get me wrong. But Flanders was probably the player that stood out the most for Gold Coast throughout the year. And even though they didn't have the year they thought they might have at one stage, they were definitely still a squad that looked very good throughout the season. Now, the season has ended for most people. 10 teams fall out every year, and this means we have 10 teams who need to figure out their off-season now. They need to. And so I thought I'd look at each team right now and see what they need to do to have a successful off-season. Now, starting off, Richmond, accept your position and blow it up. There are so many players that want to leave. There are so many players that don't need to be in your squad. There's talks around Tom Lynch leaving for a trade, pretty low compensation because of his salary. You've got Liam Baker, Shea Bolton, Short, Graham. Everyone's just got a rumour that they're leaving. It's time for Richmond to blow it up.
I think Richmond are in not a perfect position, but in a position to set the club up for the next 10 years. They're at the position where they can get all these assets and just go, right, the window's done, get all these picks, set themselves up, and then 10 years can go ahead and go for another premiership. This is probably going to be the most important window they've had for the last 20 years.
Now, the only issue you will have with that is that players like Taranto has just signed a long deal with you to come, because you said you're going to make sure you're consistently competitive. This season's not been consistently competitive. Hopper, same. You're looking at some players who will probably be upset, and I wouldn't be surprised if they also try to trade them eventually, because Taranto will request a trade at some point if this happens. Now, next up is North. Bring in some actual key forwards and defenders. Now, this could be either through signings or through the draft. I reckon it'll probably be through the draft because there's still a few years off competing properly anyway. There's plenty of actual tall man assets in the draft this year. This draft is going to be a very stacked draft, apparently. I don't know. I'm not a draft expert. I don't want to watch kids play football all the time.
That's fine. But I think their main focus would be obviously a key defender, because if they wanted to move Charlie Comben back down the forward line, they need someone to help his replacement. I think that's their main focus. Obviously, try and get another key forward to help Larky, but I think prioritising that tall key defender is probably number one on their list.
It should be, and I still think Charlie Comben should stay down back. He's had an elite second half of the year, not great one-on-ones, so let's not be too generous. But compared to what he had the first half of the year as a forward, it's probably better off him playing down back. Next up, we've got West Coast. Find more talent to surround Harley Reid. Now, I'm not saying that Harley Reid had a generational year. He's definitely been skewed by the fact that his highlight reel is insane. His stats aren't that great. There's probably players who would win the Rising Star over him if you look at the current stats for Harley Reid. But he has so much potential. He just needs the team around him to help him actually get there. You need to find a ruck for him, because they've been moving around with Williams, Jamison. There's not one set ruck. Williams should be Bailey Williams, but it's unlikely that he'll play long-term footballer.
I think the next 2 years for West Coast are going to be so important in keeping Harley Reid, getting some assets in. Obviously, they've got some great key forwards. They probably need to look for another key defender to replace McGovern, because he is aging and he is almost at the end of his career. Them losing the likes of Gaff, strengthen that midfield. There's a lot of positions they can get, and obviously there's a lot of players from that Richmond or other clubs who are from WA who have requested to move back. Here's their chance to get some players and strengthen that list.
There's only question around that is, will the players want to come in, and will that match your window? the West Coast window is much different than the Fremantle window. And players like Bolton, Baker should be looking at the window and seeing if they have another chance going for a premiership. That's my issue for West Coast. I would almost say go younger. Try to rebuild that midfield because you have Ginby who could play well in the midfield. Hasn't had that set time you probably want on someone like in that area. But right now, it's just getting the talent around Harley Reid, the potential around Harley Reid. Adelaide, find a difference maker for your midfield. Now, most of the actual other places, the forward line, great. Like they have potential. They can get some better, proper entries in. Defense, solid. A key back would be nice, but in this current market, it's unlikely to find a key back that is really worth going for. So it's getting a midfield playmaker. Right now, they've got the exact same archetype with every single midfielder they have. Rankin has to come in and play lots of midfield minutes, which is not something Rankin is built for. So my main concern for Adelaide is that they stay stagnant with this midfield. The creativity in the midfield is not there.
They got a lot of good midfielders in the likes of Dawson and Laird, but they don't have any great impactful midfielders, and that's what they miss. And if they can try and pick one or two of those players up somewhere in the off-season, if there is any available, that's where they need to go. Or look at the draft. There's a lot of good key midfielders in this draft that's heavy that they can go for in the likes of Jagger Smith or Josh Smiley.
That's if they're not off the board by the point that comes around. Also, I have a good comparison for this. Every single midfielder they've got have either looked like Rory Sloane and Matt Crouch for the last about 5-10 years. That's the issue currently for Adelaide. Melbourne, convince Petrarca to stay and rebuild your forward group. Now, Petrarca leaving would be the biggest issue, and he obviously won't be able to. Let's just quickly say that. Draft assets, we said this last week. There's too much you have to give up. Carlton won't do it because he won't give up a key forward when you need more, not get rid of your midfield. And we won't have the assets for it, and he probably won't go anywhere else. Like, let's be honest. So it's currently convince him to stay because he's there on a long-term contract. But if he doesn't play, his value goes down. He'll probably play, but not as well.
I think this will be the biggest story of the summer to see if he stays or not. I think there's only one club who can really go for them that he would want to move to. He obviously can't, but obviously we have to give up 2 first-rounders and either Harry Mackay or Charlie Curnow, and I don't know if the club wants to do that. I'm not sure at the moment. I need to look into. Obviously, I probably need to see more about it. But I think that's a massive story. It'll be the biggest talking point of the summer.
Yeah, and on the other hand, what you would get for Petrarca, a key forward, that is what you need to improve. Right now, Cozzy Pickett and Bailey Fridge are your 2 main forwards. Cozzy Pickett, as we've said before on this, is very inconsistent, and we'll come back to you later. Does like a good suspension. Bailey Fritsch hasn't looked the same since the grand final, and they've lost Ben Brown this year, who wasn't really much of a miss. Van Rooyen is still developing and is looking better as a backup ruck option than he does actually playing as a forward. It's something that they need to look to try and fix because it's going to be way too long if Petrarca's sitting there and not seeing any forward improvement. Now, next up, Gold Coast. Get some practice around the country. You can't just win all your games at home and win one away game in Melbourne with 2 rounds left. Like, you need to be able to win throughout the whole season, and that has been the downfall this year. Something like just spending time as a camp in a different state, playing a stadium that fits most generally, and conditions that fit most generally.
I think Dimmer's got a great list coming along there, and obviously they'll look to pick up the likes of Daniel Rioli. But I think, they need to try and figure out how to do on the road. Only having 2 wins on the road, obviously come in those last 3 or 4 rounds. But then in the last 3 or 4 rounds, they could win away, but they couldn't win home. So it's almost I've got to find, obviously, ways to win away, but then also make sure they still win at home. And that can then push them to their first final berth.
Yeah, it'd be good to see them just spend some time. Because their list, as I said, don't panic. This list is good. They just need one more piece for experience, probably another, like a leader. And then they have a squad which can go around and compete. They just need to make sure they're able to compete because, as we've seen in other conditions, they can't handle it. St Kilda, replace Josh Battle. He's leaving. Like, even after that performance, he's still leaving. It's either Hawthorn. There still could be someone else coming from the clouds if Hawthorn don't do it. But you need someone who's going to be able to play that role. Dougal Howard's played very well recently. Could be coming back into the squad more permanently. But you need to find that more sitting back, able to play one-on-one defender when you have those players you launch in Jack Sinclair and Nazai Wanganeen-Willera. The other thing is figure out what you're doing with your cap space, because right now the midfield needs probably another creative spark, much like Adelaide, get a creative spark. And you have so much left, there should be someone out there you can actually convince. Whether it's going to be good or not is the bigger question.
They really need to start looking to try and get a key name in there. They've looked the last couple of years, haven't been able to pick anyone up. But I think that this is their time, if they want to be pushing to get back to finals like they were last year, to really pick up a big name and solidify themselves as an actual contender to play finals. But then you look at, and then obviously losing Josh Battle is not going to help. But I found it funny that he went to St Kilda during the week and said he wanted his daughter to walk out. And that's almost a point saying, he's going. So just cut your losses there and then move on and try and get something, almost get more value than what you need, because you probably could convince a club to give you something more than what he deserved probably.
Exactly. And there's so many players that probably don't get those big contracts that right now you can sniff out, because you'll have the assets from the Josh Battle trade, and you'll have, I don't think there's any, you can draft, but I think at this point, St Kilda, you want to be starting to target another older player, someone who's going to lead this team forward as well. Maybe a midfielder, maybe younger, because right now their midfield is quite old. Otherwise, get someone who's going to be there to get you up that next step. Now, Essendon, this season was promising, once again, failed in the second half. And this time, it is continue building your defence and forward lines. Now, your defence looks better. Mackay has been a massive inclusion, but there needs to be another key back. Ridley cannot be the only good defender in the second half of the year. They need someone else to come in and play alongside Mackay, who's able to hold down the defence. And in the forward line, Langford, Wright and Caddy didn't work. Wright had his worst season in a long time. It's time to start looking at some more small forwards, because Gresham, his addition, was good for the first half of the year. Fell off a cliff the second half of the year. There was no one key small forward that you can say, yeah, they did well.
I think their midfield list is phenomenal. Merritt's still one of the best players in the comp, and they got all the needs in the midfield. Obviously, I think they need more depth in their back line as well. I think obviously they need another key defender, and so what they should look after. But you notice by the end of the season, with a couple of injuries, their depth really showed both in the forward and back line that hurt. And I think you look at their forward line, I think they're going to be saying Caddy's going to be their number one option for years to come. So invest heavily in him. And this is the point where you go maybe to Stringer or Langford, probably more Stringer, and say, we've had enough with you. I think he's in contract yet. I don't think he's signed a contract yet. But it's like almost not ship him off, but like, so see what you can get for him.
That would be probably a good thing. I don't know if he's unrestricted or restricted. So we'll see what happens with that one. But Essendon, yeah, it's just consolidating what they've built so far, because their midfield is great. Everything else needs a bit of work. Fremantle, see if someone's willing to move for Sean Darcy, because this has not worked out. Their contract is massive for him. 2 rocks on major deals. But at the same time, he's only played like 5 games this year. He's been injured most of the year. So see if you can find someone who's willing to move on him. Geelong probably would still be interested in him, because Reece Stanley will likely be going either this year or next year. So see if someone will be willing to trade. Otherwise, go big on proven talent. As I said, we said beforehand, Richmond have so much talent that's going to be moving back to the West. But there's so many people in Melbourne, in other states, who will come back to the West if you can give them money.
Yes, I 100% agree there. I think, first of all, we'll touch on the Sean Darcy thing. I think they're doing a look for him. I think Luke Jackson is probably their best option at the ruck. Obviously, they've pushed him forward. He's done well, but I think he's too good of a talent to keep in the forward line, not be put in the ruck for the majority of the game. I think he's a young talent they need to look for. Obviously, Darcy, like I said, hasn't worked. But then again, with the talent, they need to look, because they've got a great list in the likes of Sarong, Brayshaw, Young, Ryan. They can increase. If you can get 1 or 2 major players, get another key forward to help Tracy, and they're set. They will look very dominant next year.
Yeah, it'll be a big see, like how much, if they can try and package a deal around the Richmond players, because there's multiple Richmond players moving over there. They could package a deal. I doubt it. Richmond will try to get as much as they possibly can. But it'll be interesting to see what Fremantle try to do to get around this issue. Collingwood, finally, the last team, find a Nathan Murphy replacement. Billy Frampton is not the style of Nathan Murphy, and while I love him, he does not fit in the Collingwood defense at this current point in time. And then find a key forward for the future. This year, we have McStay, who's about to turn 30, Myercheck, who's 32, Elliott, who's 33, who's still short. Well, he's not like a key forward. And Nathan Kruger, who has hardly played over the last 5 years of his career. So at this current point in time, there needs to be someone going through the VFL system or playing some small minutes who is a key forward that can play there eventually. This year needs to be that draft. It's not going to be a high talent because we can't trade up that high. Lockie Schultz trade has made sure we can't do that. But someone who's lower down, who you can trust and develop.
I think you just need a replacement. Not a replacement, but someone to help Myercheck. I think you can see how much, not it hurt, but you see how big of an impact it is not having him. I think that shown in the last couple of weeks. But yes, I think you do need to find a replacement. Nathan Murphy. Obviously, Billy Frampton's not the right player. He's very different. Nathan Murphy was that player when someone like a Darcy Moore wanted to go run free, he could take his player and watch the two players at once, and that pretty much not won you guys the grand final. Was such a big impact player. But I think also you got to be looking at there's such an aging list where to go from here, because you don't want to reach a stage where you have 4 or 5 players retire at the same time. Obviously, Pendles is around almost 36, 37. Side bottoms up there. You named a couple more names in their 30s, trying to make sure that once they're gone, it doesn't put Collingwood in a terrible position for the future.
Well, the one key consolidation about that is that the cap space, once we do lose all those players, is going to be immense. Because St Kilda war chest right now is big. The Collingwood war chest, once they all retire, is going to be absolutely insane. The bigger question is what they're going to do with it, because at that point, Tassie comes into play as well. But talking about retirements, we have to quickly send off some players. And I'm feeling really emotional this week. I hate when players retire because I don't get to see them again. So I made this video to, show my support to these players who are moving on to different professions. Can you roll it, please?
Roll the tape. Got me emotional.
When that Tom Hawkins, when he was picking his nose.
I'm never going to get to see Dustin Martin after a game at Kittens again.
Okay, I can't let that alone. Marlon Pickett in the West Coast. Oh my god.
Zach Tui, my one true love.
Now, we've been wasting your time for long enough, so I probably will just quickly breeze through football. Start off with Douglas Costa signed for Sydney FC today. Now, to put this in perspective, this is probably the largest signing, reputation-wise, since Del Piero at Sydney as well. So I don't know how the fuck we pulled it off. But yeah,
It came out of nowhere. I only found out when I rocked up to the studio today that he'd come to the A-League. But it's something that Sydney FC have a knack for getting these star players. But good on him. I think he's going to bring fans and viewers to the game at least, and get hopefully more fans to the games, because they want to see a star player like Douglas Costa, who is he's not a Brazilian icon, but been such a pivotal player for Brazil the last 15 years.
well, he has fallen off since he moved from Bayern and everyone. But the funniest thing is that people pointed out in 2016 he was in Australia, just on his break at a futsal tournament in Melbourne, and at the time you could pay $360 to do a meet and greet with him. So it's funny to see him back in Australia 8 years later.
It is very funny. But into other news now, Trent Sainsbury's come back to the Mariners. I think that's a big move to increase the Mariners' war chest they've got already in players, and looking to go, would be 2-3 years in a row for A-League?
It'll be 3 years in a row, and he is a big replacement for Dan Hole. Dan Hole leaving was a big gap. But it is funny to see how long it's taken, because during the time he's trained, I reckon probably half the teams in the league. He just was like, oh, I might not go back. And then he's like, okay, I'll come back now. So it is kind of funny, but it is good pickup for the Mariners. Now, the start of the season, last week was the start for most leagues, but this week was the start for the Saudi League. And Craig Goodwin is the star of the Saudi League. No one else plays in the Saudi League other than Craig Goodwin. And he got 2 goals and assist as Al Wader beat Al Riyadh in the first round of the season. Good work, Craig. Too bad he left Adelaide.
Ronaldo who? I'm more on the Goodwin
No,
side.
who's that? Who's Ronaldo? It's Craig Goodwin. Do you not remember him winning the Ballon d'Or 4 times?
I thought he won it 6 times. Oh, maybe I'm off.
No. Anyway, Chocardi, we were talking about him last week. This week, it's even better because he was a key performer in their 2-1 win over AC Milan. Now, Parma, that is a big thing coming up from the second division, beating Milan in your first attempt. So good job on him. And then lastly, the Australia Cup. We covered this a couple of weeks back. It's starting again this week. So round of 16's on. And last night was the first couple of games. South Melbourne versus Sydney Olympic. It was a 2-2 draw. It was 2-1 at the 90th minute. South Melbourne tie up. And then a free kick from the sideline about probably 40-50 metres out has been banged in. Absolute push-cast contender. Thank you, Marko Jankovic, for doing that for us. Very good round of football overall so far for Australia Cup. We'll see how the rest of the results go next week. Melon of the Week is back once again. We love Melon of the Week.
Melons.
Not that type of melon.
No, watermelon.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Anyway, so Melon of the Week, each week we look at 5 people, entities, whatever, and we say you are a melon for an action you did over the week.
Don't. Again, we say this every week. I'll repeat myself every week. You don't want to be on this list. You don't want to be a melon.
You don't. Now, let's start off. Number 5. I'm a big gridiron fan. Are you a big gridiron fan?
I love my NFL and college football.
Now, this week was the opening for college football, and it was in Ireland. Yeah, not the North Place.
Interesting.
In the Aer Lingus game, I think. I don't know. I can't remember the name properly. But this game was touted to be Florida State's big push to start their season for a national championship. Now, they played on Georgia Tech, who have been terrible for years. Georgia Tech live in the shadow of Georgia. And so everyone thought, Georgia Tech will be blown over. Florida State ranked number 10 going into this match. Florida State can't get anything going, and Georgia Tech win on a final field goal. Now, Florida State, you didn't even go... I can understand your quarterback left, Jordan Travis left. But you bring in a senior transfer, and he can't even get you a win in your first game. Come on, guys.
It's poor. But number 4, Kozzie Pickett. Come on. This is the 4th time or 3rd time you've been suspended in 27 games. I don't reckon people get suspended more than 3 times in their career.
No.
And he's done it 3 times in 27 games. I get you like going for a hard ball and trying to intimidate opponents. But it's not the way to do it. And you've done it 3 different ways as well. It's not like you've done the same thing every time. Come on, mate. Do you not want to play football? You're on big bucks. You can't be doing this.
And the thing is, right, it's on Darcy Moore, who has history with Melbourne this year. But he was going down, and instead of thinking, his head's down there, you decide, fuck it, Like what? Like, come on.
Especially with their depleted forward line, you want to be playing. You can't be giving up this sort of stuff.
Turn it up.
We're getting copyrighted every week, John T.
No.
They came at us last week. We can't keep doing this. We're losing money.
I didn't see this email.
Well, do you not see it? Bounce sent us an email.
Oh, okay.
They told us if we keep saying turn it up, we're in trouble.
Nah, shit, sorry, my bad. All right, well, we'll move on from that then. We're going to stay in Ireland for mine. Number 3 is Gordon Lyons. Now, you don't know who this guy is unless you're a big Gaelic football fan. I'm not either. I only found this out this week. So, Gordon Lyons was promoted to the president role of the Gaelic Football Association, whatever it's called, at the start of this year in Feb, right? It's been 6 months. You think, he's been to a few games, made himself well presented within the sport. No, he's hasn't been to a game since he became president.
What?
Yeah, 6 months in, hasn't been to a single game.
You're kidding.
No.
What the fuck's the point? Language, sorry. What the hell's the point of being the president of a league if you can't attend games?
I don't know. But Gordon Lyons, you are a massive melon.
Now, from one league to another, number 2 is the AFL. Now, I get that you're trying to cut costs here and save a bit of money. Obviously, putting lights on at a stadium is very expensive. But why are we rescheduling games the day before? Especially for a game like North Melbourne versus Hawthorn.
Like, realistically, that game, Hawthorn fans right now are travelling. North fans, they're not travelling, but the Tasmanian ones will. This is a highlight match. You're trying to prove that Tasmania deserves a football team, and you decide the day before to reschedule. Everyone has to travel. It's not like it's an easy one. People have to travel.
It didn't make sense. I don't see the point in rescheduling the day before to try and cut costs or hopefully not deal with light. It just doesn't make sense, especially for the games that don't matter.
It's so silly.
That baffles me. You're a melon, AFL. Cut it. Cut the crap.
And now number 1, and it's pretty obvious, it's the Carlton fans.
No.
I've done quotation marks, all right? Calm down.
Good. The culprit is still not found.
He was in the Carlton cheer squad. I don't want to hear it.
No proof.
So Carlton fans, the water bottle thing to the goal umpire. Even if it was umpire, the goal umpire doesn't do anything. He just goes bang. Bang. He doesn't do anything else. So why are you throwing a water bottle at him? It is the most stupid thing possible. The only way I can see it not being a Carlton fan, because you guys will just do it if there's anything not going your way.
No. Again, we don't know who the fan is and what team he supports. He could support St Kilda. He could be a neutral. We don't know. But we don't condone what happened to the umpire. And whoever that fan is, you should get a ban for lifetime. Mm-hmm. And what should happen is we should go to Federation Square and do like a public shaming and also water bottles at this bloke's head.
Yeah, that sounds good. I think that's good. A fair punishment. He should stand on the stage. Everyone gets to come up real close, and then they go.
No, it has to be the same distance. It has to be a little bit fair.
Oh, well, that was about 20 meters max.
Okay, so 20 meters. Bang. I'm literally going to put cement in my water bottle and throw it in his head.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But whoever this fan is, you're a melon.
And that is Melon of the Week. Now, don't get on this list again, Cozzy Pickett. I swear to God, if I see you back here again next
season, he's leading. He's leading Melon of the Year so far.
Oh my God,
that's impressive.
He's going to be in this list like 20 million times, isn't he?
Yo, as long as he doesn't get in trouble in the off season, he'll be fine.
Oh, but next year there's more games where he can get suspended within a certain amount of time.
He's just got to be. He's going to be his first 3 games, so you can't get suspended.
Oh,
the first 3
true.
games.
There we go. Cozzy, you're safe
for 3 weeks. Now, before we head off, we thought we'll just give us one more chance. Obviously, there's no football this week, so we can't do a multi for a game. But we thought we would sort of divert and change routes. And this week, we're still going to do a multi. Nuffin's multi is still going to be around. But what league are we looking at this week, Jonty?
Well, it is the Premier League. Now, the issue is we're doing results, and I hate betting on results. I hate it, but there's not much else to bet on right now if you don't know the teams, like who's playing. So we've gone with results. I feel terrible about it.
I disagree. I think we're a good chance here. We're not going any bogey $2.80 bets. We've kept it very nice and simple. And I think this could be a nice, delectable money to win.
Could be, but also remember, gamble responsibly. We are... I don't know if we're legally required to say that, but we just need to continue saying it.
Responsible gambling? What's that?
No, mate, you can't be saying that. Hold on.
Yeah?
Hold on.
Gamble responsibly.
There we go, see? All right, now to start off, we have Arsenal versus Brighton. Now, realistically, Brighton, you had a good game against us. We're sorry we doubted you. But Arsenal will beat you. They love beating you at home. So, Arsenal to win, that's $1.32 right now.
We then go to a game what could be a bit more interesting than we think. However, it's Brentford versus Southampton. And we think that Brentford will get the win here. I think they just got a bit too much. I think Southampton are really sort of not struggling, but showing they're a little unprepared coming to the Premier League. So I think that Brentford will get the win here.
Now, Leicester, they look good so far this season compared to what we probably thought. Jamie Vardy did score that tire against Tottenham. But Villa are a elite team right now, and they should go to Leicester and win. Now, it's currently paying $1.75.
Our fourth leg for the game we're looking at, we're going to the Nottingham Forest versus Wolverhampton Wanderers. And I think we look at it, Wolves look a bit unprepared this season. They haven't really hit any form. And I think that's going to occur again. I think Nottingham Forest are looking okay. I think they'll get a nice 1-2-0 win here. And that's paying $1.94 for them to win at home.
Now, there was a scare at the start of last week, but City ended up winning 4-1 against Ipswich, and we don't see much of a change happening this week. City should be travelling to London Stadium and winning once again. That pays $1.36.
And you wrap up all the 5 games, it ends up bringing you to a total of $10.66. Again, this could change during fluctuations during the next couple of days, but we think this is really good value. You chuck about $5-10 on it, you win $100, you take that and you go spend the night out, get a couple of drinks.
If you put enough money on it.
You'll be fine. It's a nice little cheeky bet that I reckon will get up. I'm going to chuck a bit of money on it myself.
I don't like the betting results, but...
Have faith, Jonty, have faith.
But if I had to, this is the one I'd choose.
Good. And always remember, not gamble responsibly.
No, do.
Not.
Do.
Not.
Don't listen to him. That's the better one.
Go Blues.
See? This was a good episode, right?
It was. And I think I'm looking forward to this week coming, not having to worry about any footy. I think it'll be nice and relaxing.
I'm happy. I get to go to Bali now, mentally.
I still got to deal with a 100-point loss by Brisbane, but it doesn't matter. It's all fine. I think we've got a lot of promise going into finals. I think it's going to be very interesting finals. And we've had another good episode.
It should be a good final series, and we'll talk about that next week. Finals preview, as well as some other stuff that happens. Australia Cup, we mentioned that earlier. And I think college football's back, so we might do a little bit talking about that if there's nothing else on. You want to say anything, or...?
What's that? What's that? Da 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 da! The Blues are playing finals.
You did last year as well.
Yeah, it's gonna
What
be a good
happened
week. I'm walking out. We're playing finals. Woo!
Yeah, they're losing round 1.